now I've got a bit of time on my hands. I thought I'd change my split charging system. At the minute I am using a voltage sensitive relay. I've noticed it's not doing a brilliant job, to be honest with you. So I've gone for something a bit more sophisticated. This Sterling battery to battery split charging system. This should charge up the batteries up to 30 amps. It's quite a sophisticated box. I've disconnected the VSR, which also acts as my 12 volt isolator switch. I can isolate the voltage sensitive relay part of this, which will make that relay redundant. I am using the original charging cables for the original split charger. Now, from the battery terminal post on the vehicle starter battery, it goes through an inline fuse, runs along the chassis ladder of the van, and pops up through here to this isolation switch. From that isolation switch, it goes up to the Sterling split charger. From the Sterling split charger, it comes back through again and goes straight to the batteries via a fuse. I've also put in place a negative straight from the pole of the starter battery. That also runs along the chassis ladder and comes through this hole here. Then two will be connected up to the split charger, which I'll show you later. So the way I want it to work is to be switched on as soon as I turn on the engine. So I've drawn a cable from the cab to the back end here. There you are. Now that's attached behind the radio on the ignition feed. So as soon as you turn the ignition on, this would trigger this and turn it on, then charge up the batteries as I'm driving. Also in this cable bunch, if I get it unstuck, is another twin core cable. Now on the end of that twin core cable, inside there on the negative pole of the Ledger battery, is a battery temperature sender. So with them cables I mentioned before, I've now tied back or fastened back those cables, wrapped it around with insulation tape, and I've traced it through at the back down alongside the main CPU unit here, and the exit point for those cables come out just down here. Now I'm just going to trim them back and fasten them onto the Sterling board. So I've now mounted this unit onto the wall. There's 4 screw holes either side of the B2B, and just underneath I've also connected up the wiring and cables. So on the left hand side there you can see the 2 twin core wires coming from the battery temperature sender. They want to be attached to the top 2 terminal posts, and the 3rd post from the bottom, that's the ignition trigger wire. Just on the right hand side, that is the positive cable coming from the starter battery, negative cable coming from the starter battery, and that is the positive feed going to the Ledger batteries. Now between here and the Ledger batteries there is an inline fuse. Now with the B2B fitted inside that cupboard, I have turned on that isolator switch. The B2B has seen the Ledger batteries. I'm going to turn on the ignition. The B2B will switch on, and now I shall start the engine. Give it a couple of seconds. There you go. And yes, I can see it on the control panel. Let's go and have a look at that. And with the engine running on idle, I can see it's generating around about 20 amps. On the left hand side here, it's saying 267 watts. I've seen this go up to 27 amps before with this B2B. It's just a brilliant bit of kit. So upon mine, I have set the battery settings. Now on the side of the B2B is the preset battery settings. Now I've gone for the AGM2 settings, which is best suited for my batteries, and it's just a case of pressing in both toggle switches. Press them in for 10 seconds, hold the buttons down, and after 10 seconds release the buttons, and with them 2 toggle switches you should be able to pre-select the battery charging settings you would require. Once you've selected your charging settings, leave it for 30 seconds and it should store within the B2B. Now, for whatever reasons you need to reset the B2B, you can press both toggle switches in for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, release both toggle switches, press both toggle switches again briefly, release, and then you shall see on the left hand side of the B2B 2 sets of green flashing LEDs. And that should have reset the B2B. And once it's all set up, there's a red cover at the bottom of the B2B with tabs on each end, and you can place that just at the bottom there and it clicks into place. And there you go, a nice easy job.